Hey, everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co host, and partner in all cats, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello.
How's
Hey,
it going?
everybody. It's going pretty well. I do have some new friends to share with
Yes.
you.
Oh
My
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 God.
kittens have come home. So this is BB and this is
Oh,
Gigi.
dear God.
And
They
Sandy
are
was here
so
and then she
cute.
discovered the kittens were here and now she left. Uh, aren't they cute?
She's
My
like, excuse
God.
me, that's my job.
Yeah. Well, Rhonda's going to come get these two here in a few minutes because there's no way I can hold them through the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
But the kittens have come home. They came home yesterday,
Oh,
and we've got a lot of chaos. Sandy and Mimi, my older kitties, they're on a hunger strike. They're refusing
um,
to eat their food.
that tracks.
Kitten,
Yep.
Mimi has been sleeping on my pillow all day. Like, this is where me and my mom used to sleep. As if they that isn't still the case. These two don't even sleep with us. They sleep in their house. Um,
Yeah.
at least for now. But anyway, I mean,
Oh, I cannot wait to come down and hold them. My
look at
hell.
their faces.
They are
They're so cute.
so cute.
Little
Look at those
Gigi,
bellies and the toe beanies. Oh,
oh
good Lord.
yeah. Well, and so BB she's the biggest kitten of the bunch. She is big and
Okay.
fat and healthy, and it took little Gigi a little longer to figure out eating and things. So she's kind of the littlest of the bunch, but I mean,
Well, they're just
they are
precious.
unbelievable. They are so much fun.
Oh, ho, ho. Are you so glad you got two?
So glad, yes. They
Yeah.
didn't even cry last night. We put them in their
Yeah.
bed and they cuddled up together and went to bed and they've been fine. And yeah, they're not like crying and missing their mama and
Mm-hmm.
stuff at all because they have each other.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Well,
So happy
yay.
birthday. I got you kittens. No, I didn't. You can see them, but they're not yours.
That's fine. That's the kind of kittens I want. Kittens aren't
Yeah,
safe
there you
at
go.
my house. I won't have a cat because I live
Right.
too close to busy roads and it's not fair to them. So I'd rather
But
you
you
have
can come
cats.
over and pet these guys because they're
I
really fun.
will very soon. Super cute.
Gigi already fell behind the couch and couldn't get out today. And they are Persians, yes. They are so fluffy. Yes, their mama looks a whole lot like little Gigi here. And
Mm-hmm.
their daddy is actually an orange tabby Persian. So
Yeah.
we don't know
Oh.
where this beautiful gray came from, but she is gorgeous.
She is so gorgeous. Oh, I love her. Wow, I'm
Aren't
so
they?
excited. That is so fun.
It is. They are the best.
Mhm.
So how are
Well,
you?
cool. Well, I'm good. Having a great birthday. I can't believe I'm wearing this on the air, but Mart's bought me this. I saw this on Amazon and I had to have it. Actually, I think I saw it on TikTok Shop. It's a it's like this kind of watery filled rubbery tube that fits around your neck, and all you have to do is put it in cold water for a few minutes and it freezes.
That's really cool.
It's really cool, and then you just throw it around your neck and it stays cold for like a good hour. But it's not so cold that you have to put a towel under it or like be uncomfortable with it. It just
Yeah.
keeps you cool. And we're in a bit of a heat wave here. I know it's not nearly as
Oh,
bad
we
as some
sure
of you
are.
guys are having, but for us, it's hot. I don't have AC. And so, yeah, keeping cool is the game right now. So, also because I've been running my kiln nonstop. So, everyone here hates me.
Oh no. It's 100 degrees. Let's run the kiln.
Let's run the kiln up to 1400 degrees. Neat idea. Yeah. But but we have a fair on
Okay.
Saturday, and I
Yes.
had a whole bunch of things to
Okay.
do.
Say goodbye
So,
to these faces. Rhonda's going to
oh,
take them back now.
bye-bye,
Because they won't be good
sisters.
the whole time. They get
No.
real antsy, want to get down and run around. But
Oh,
there
yeah.
we are.
They're babies. They want to play and
They
take a big
are.
nap.
Yes.
Well,
They are the
good.
best.
Yeah. Well, Scott and ours took me to, we had a late lunch at the Hickory, which was awesome.
Ooh, nice.
The
Yes.
Hickory is a like a smoked meats type, place here in town that We ate there so many times during Lori's trial. It just cracks me up every time I go in
We
there.
did.
That's I think me and you and Aunt Sue, man, we were in there all the time.
We were. They are, they have really good food.
Mhm. They do. It was nice. Yeah. Well, we only need AC for like 2 here at least. We really only need AC for a couple of months. I
I
probably wouldn't
needed
run it
about
beyond
4.
that. Yeah.
And I have it. But my house is brick. And if you've ever lived in a brick house, you know why they cook pizza in brick ovens.
Mhm. True.
There's a hot
Yeah.
it's hot as hell in the summertime. So,
Yeah. Well, and we have really super good shade. There's 55 trees on my property, and big
yeah,
trees,
you have
old
a ton of
trees.
shit.
And so that I think that helps us a lot too. But I will say when it gets like this, there are frequent drives, frequent trips to the soda shop for something cold and then a good drive in the AC to cool down
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of well, but we were cold last week and then we're supposed to cool off again this weekend. So that's good because we have a fair. If you are local, we have a fair on Saturday. We're doing the Falls Market and it's from 10 to 3. And I'll get you the address later in the week. But I'm super excited. We've never done this one before.
I'm so excited too cuz my brand new 3D printer just got set up and is working. So, I'm going to have some new things. I
So
hope.
exciting. I love it.
Yeah.
And so if you came here only for the true crime, I apologize. 'Cause we have a lot to talk about tonight. And I
We
promise we're going to
do.
get to the true crime.
We
We have
haven't
got
seen you
some
guys for
stuff.
like 3 days. So,
Hmm.
what the hell?
There was some crazy excitement at my house on Friday that I have to tell you guys about.
Oh,
But I'm going to lead it out with this spam text that I received earlier last week. This was on Tuesday. Someone texted me and said, "This is Sarah from Homebuyers. Your home at 3140 Delford Avenue caught my eye. I don't live at Delford Avenue. I don't know where that is, what city, state, nothing. That's not my address at all, or I wouldn't be putting it on the internet, I promise. Uh, Caught my eye while I was browsing properties. Would you consider selling it?" And just because I'm a smartass and, because I'm me, I responded and I said, "Hi, Sarah. We may be, but you should know that this house is currently infested with weasels. Just when we think they are under control, a new batch of babies is born. We have weasels in the walls, running around the attic at night. They even stole a whole cherry pie off the counter just last week." Okay, none of that is true, right? I was just making shit up, just thinking I was funny. All right, so that's fine. Friday, around noon, my dogs were absolutely going crazy in the backyard. And we have a dog door and a big fenced yard, so the dogs are in and out all the time. But to hear him barking like that, it was like something was wrong. So I ran out there, and we have a little barn that's right up against the house that Luca, my bigger Chihuahua boy, was trying to dig under and was barking his guts out. And Nellie, our Basset, was right behind him barking. My little Chihuahua Bruno, who is not an instigator, he's an encourager. So he was behind them barking his brains out.
He was
And I was like,
cheering them
what
on.
the hell? But every time Luca would lunge under there and get closer, I could hear something screaming under there. So I was like, oh my God, there's something under the barn. This isn't just, what is this? So
Mm-hmm.
I grabbed Scott and he came out and he was like, "Is it a bird? Like, what makes that noise?" So he has this light. It's like a fiber optic light on a long cord. He uses it for mechanics to like stick it down into motors and stuff to see things. And then it has this little handheld screen. So he
Mm-hmm.
poked that under there, and you guys will not freaking believe what was under the barn.
What was
A
it?
weasel. We- he was like, "You've got to be kidding me. That's a weasel." Holy
You
shit.
attracted him.
We attracted a weasel. So there he is. I'm going to show you a little video of him too. His little eyes glowing. Every time
Yeah.
we'd put the light thing under there, it's just a black cord, but the end of it glows a little bit with the fiber optics. And he was really drawn to it, and he'd come back up to it. So we're like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" Well, obviously, we don't want our dogs to fight him. We don't want him to
Yeah.
get hurt. We don't want him to hurt our dogs.
Yeah.
We don't know why he's here. I have never seen a weasel on my property or really anywhere around here.
Mm-mm.
So Mars and I ran over. There's a farm and like supply store right around the corner from our house. So we ran and we get a trap We run back home, we set it up, we put a can of chicken in it, we have it all ready for the weasel. We lock all the dogs up and we go and run some errands because we're like, we're going to just get the hell out of here, quiet things down for the weasel, and hopefully he'll come into the trap and then we can take him out to the warm slough or into the mountains and let him go. Because, of course, it was never
Hmm.
in my intention to hurt the weasel. I would never do that. Uh,
No.
I mean, a lot of people would have just tried to get their gun under there and shoot him. I would have never, ever, ever done something like that. We would just have rehomed him or, taken him to a safe place, not rehomed him.
Yeah.
Um, some of my friends were like, "Are you going to keep him? Are you out of your mind?" Definitely not. Someone else asked me if she could keep him. No, no, you cannot.
I mean, we did have a ferret as kids that was yours, so I
Mhm.
wasn't sure.
We did, but no, not this guy. Can you imagine how hard he must bite? But also, that would be so mean.
Oh, it would. Tina says, by the way, they can spray and they smell worse than a skunk. I had
That's
no
what we
idea.
read. We read that. We also read that there has never been a sighting of a weasel in Madison County before, where we live, on the Fish and Games
What?
website. So we were in the mountains the day before mushroom hunting. It kind of made me wonder if we somehow accidentally brought him back in the truck. I have
Oh,
no idea. But we went to town, we came back. The weasel was not in the trap, nor was he under the barn anymore. So the weasel flew the coop. We
okay.
have no idea where he went. I've really watched and listened. The dogs have patrolled the backyard like motherfuckers because, they're just
I
sure he's
bet.
not there. So hopefully he got somewhere safe. But can you believe that? I made up that stupid story about a weasel and then I had a weasel. Hmm.
You better be careful.
So one of my Facebook friends said, you should have just said, "Have you ever heard of the Rexburg Snake House?" Dear God, no. Not after this. Years
No.
ago, there was a house here, actually right out by Chad. This tracks.
Well, that's
Right
right.
out by
Yeah, I've
Chad.
been out there.
There was a house out there that was so infested with snakes that it had to be torn down.
Oh,
Hmm.
God. Uh, the weasel
It
popped
made
the scene, says
national
Kristi.
news. What's that?
The weasel popped the scene. Pop goes the weasel. He popped on out.
He
Oh, the
really did.
snake house. Oh, God.
Hmm.
No, no. Not good.
So next time I'm going to tell someone that there's $5 million in gold bullion buried somewhere on my property.
I think that seems like a really good plan because you are
Yeah.
an excellent manifester, as we can all attest.
Can you guys even with that? It's the craziest
It's
thing.
crazy.
I was really kind of bummed because I really wanted to really see him. But it's okay. It's
Yeah.
fine. I just hope he's okay. And that he's not terrorizing the neighbors too much.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know if anyone on my street has chickens anymore, so we might be okay. But yeah. Oh, wow. Journey said they had ferrets that they used for rabbit hunting. Wow. I had
Oh,
a very
wow.
lazy ferret that slept inside the furniture and played dead all the time and lined up in front of the fridge for three reasons every morning. That's
She
the kind
did.
of life
She
she
read
had.
everywhere she went with a slipper on her head
Mm-hmm.
that she would
Yep.
stuff down in the couch and sleep inside of.
Mm-hmm.
She was hilarious. She was wonderful.
She was really cool.
Francine.
But we also had our family reunion this weekend. You guys
Hmm.
camped.
We did camp. It was really, really nice. We were in Island Park. So Island Park is the lead up to the west entrance of Yellowstone. So we're right up there. You climb a big mountain pass. We call it the Ashton Hill, but it's an actual pass. And you're basically driving up the side of that gigantic volcano caldera and
Mm-hmm.
then back down in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun. We had a great time. It was really, really hot, but it is always really hot up there this time of year. The
Mm-hmm.
weather was absolutely gorgeous, blue skies, and we had a strawberry moon that
Oh.
absolutely lit up the inside of my motorhome
Mm-hmm.
one whole night. It was wild.
It was phenomenal. Yes.
It was
Uh,
very cool.
this is our dad's side of the family. And this reunion is hardcore band. These guys, it is lined out. And when you are in
Hmm.
charge of organizing it, there's a specific thing we do, and it's great. So this year the theme was Renaissance. So the t-shirts showed, reflected that. There's always t-shirts,
Hmm.
always. So everyone wears the same t-shirt the whole weekend. And there's always either a cornhole or a horseshoe tournament. And participation is not really supposed to be your choice. They want
Hmm.
everyone to participate. Now, you kind of pick and choose, but you pretty much they want you to do everything.
Hmm.
So we 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 did. One of the things they do, our uncles are all old mountain men. They go to all the mountain men rendezvous and they have done for a million years and they're way into that kind of stuff. And so one of the things we always do at this reunion is the hawk and knife throw. So the hawk is like a tomahawk and then a knife. Then they have these big stands set up and you throw at them and you might suck a lot, but you still are supposed to, come play and participate. And we did. I don't always do hawk and knife because I'm terrible,
I
but
hadn't done hawk and knife for 10 years easily.
yeah.
But
But we
I
were like,
decided I was not doing horseshoes, so I better do hawk and knife.
hmm but you did one of the funniest things. And I was so happy. I just decided to film you while you did this throw for fun. And the funniest thing
Unbeknownst to
happened.
me, someone's filming me while this stupid incident occurred.
So, for your viewing pleasure, you hit it. Oh no!
Yeah, leave it, Chris. You'll just hurt yourself.
I don't know if I can do.
4 of those lined up, and it was going down. I thought if it hits the next one, they're all gonna domino down.
Luckily, it landed behind him.
It did.
I don't know how you managed to knock that over, but that was damn funny.
I will say though that I was actually pretty decent at hawk and knife this year. I didn't really expect myself to be, but I did fairly well.
You did really good. You cut a card.
I did cut a card,
Like
yeah.
practically no one did
They put a
that.
playing card. They staple a playing card in the middle, and you get 3 points if you cut the card and stick the knife.
Mhm.
You can't do one or the other, and I did.
I know. I was impressed. Super impressed. Yeah.
It was
So
fun.
anyway,
It was really
it was
fun.
good. We had a great weekend.
Yes, we did.
And now for my birthday.
Hulk strong, right? I had no idea that I was tough enough to do that.
Yeah. So later this week, we're going to go to Jackson Hole, Wyoming to a whiskey tasting for my birthday. You and I need to discuss that. And,
Yes, we do. I
and
forgot
then
about
on
that.
Sunday, there's a new, remember we live not too far from Yellowstone. And there has been a wildlife park in my town for a long time called Yellowstone Bear World that is just full of bears and elk and bison and all kinds of things. There's a brand new one that opened last year, and we haven't been to it yet. And it's like, really, it's only 5 minutes from my house, maybe. And I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go, and we haven't gone. And then we talked to the owner, and he told us if you come on Sunday and book a private tour, then you get the whole place to yourself, and you get to be there while they feed, particularly the bears.
Oh,
So on
cool.
Sunday afternoon, we get to go do that. So I'm so excited about that. So
That's going
that's
to be
what we're
really
doing for
fun.
my birthday. Yeah. We're just going to birthday it
Very
up all
cool.
week, apparently.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Hello.
Mars and I had a lengthy argument today about how old I am. She turns out she was right. I was convinced
How old do you think you are?
I thought I was 46. No, I'm 47.
You are 47.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I'm 48, almost 49. We're only
Mhm.
18 months apart, so.
I don't know if it was denial or just, the heat. It was the heat. It was probably the heat.
I think you should count that, yeah.
It, maybe it was this gin. I don't know. Anyway, turns out,
That's
yeah, no,
funny.
I'm 47. So there you go. Well, I thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different and look into the annals of history up in Yellowstone Park to some of the crime and mayhem that has happened up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Yellowstone has been operating for more than 100 years now. They celebrated,
150?
yeah, they 152 years. Yep. Their
Yeah.
150-year anniversary was in 2022. And there's been a lot go down in Yellowstone over the years. I mean,
Yes,
partially
there
just because
has.
people are ridiculous. But we came across this excellent list of all of the scaldings. There have been 22.
We're going to talk about one of them.
Mm-hmm. Of the murders, there have been 8.
Mm-hmm.
And of the maulings, there have been 12. That I don't think includes all of the buffalo incidents.
Yeah, that must just be bears,
I think that's just bears.
because getting horned by bison has happened way more times than that.
That happens every year, several times at least. But at any rate, Yellowstone has a really rich history. So we thought it would be interesting to dip into the past a little bit. So speaking of dipping
Yeah.
in, talk to us about a scalding.
Oh my gosh, you guys. So, one thing that you have to know is that the hot pots and the geysers and all of the features in Yellowstone are incredibly hot, way hotter than many tourists seem to understand. Most people who get scalded fall in accidentally, but they're probably doing something dumb they're not supposed to do. There,
Hmm.
there are uh, boardwalks all around everywhere that you
Hmm.
go, whether you're at Old Faithful, which is like the most famous geyser in Yellowstone, or if
Hmm.
you're at the paint pots or wherever you are, um, but you have to stay on those um, boardwalks because if you
Yeah.
don't, you can fall in
Yeah.
to like Celestine Spring
Yeah.
that is known to get as hot as 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 93 degrees Celsius. So let me
Yeah.
tell you about a man who, well, actually went in voluntarily. So this guy's name is David Kerwin. Let me show you a picture of David. This is David and Celestine Spring. So David Kerwin was visiting Yellowstone at Celestine Spring with his friend Ronald Ratliff, and this was in 1981.
Hmm.
And Ratliff had his dog, who was a Great Dane, his name was Moosey, with him. Now, here's the other thing: dogs are not welcome in Yellowstone. They
No.
can only be in the parking areas. They cannot
Hmm.
go out on the boardwalks. They can't go around the wildlife. And it is for their own safety
Oh,
and for the
yeah.
safety of the wildlife that you cannot let your dogs run. And this is a great example of that because
And we have
unfortunately,
seen people walking their dogs on those boardwalks. I don't
yeah.
know how you would. I would be a nervous wreck. Taking my kids on those boardwalks has scared the absolute shit out of me. Can you imagine
Yeah,
walking your
you keep
dogs
an
out
eye on
there?
them all the time. But I think sometimes people who don't live here, they don't understand really how dangerous it is.
Mhm.
So anyway, well, Moosey got away from Ronald. This was on July 20th, 1981. And he literally dove into Celestine Spring.
Mhm.
Now that is real bad news
Yeah.
because he's not going to survive that.
No.
But without really thinking, David
Mhm.
sees his friend's dog, you know, jump into the spring and he's
Yeah.
yelping because he's burning. And so he just dives into the boiling water as well.
Yeah.
He swam out to Moosey, tried to lift him up and get him to shore, and kind of went under with him, had to let go of Moosey and swam back to the edge of the shore. Ronald Ratliff ran over to help him and pull him out from the water. He got second-degree burns on his feet. Ronald did just from helping his friend.
Yeah.
And David Kerwin said, "That was stupid. How bad am I? That was a stupid thing I did." Well, unfortunately, he was blind. The
Yeah.
water blinded him. And he actually had third-degree burns all over his entire body.
Yeah.
He was rushed to the nearest burn center, which, if you can imagine, was in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah.
And he died the next morning. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Sad.
Horrifying.
Moosey, they never recovered Moosey. A
No.
lot of bodies don't get recovered out of here, out of those, because not only are they boiling hot, but many of them are extremely acidic as well. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
often there's
Yeah.
just nothing to find. The
Yeah.
fact that that guy got out
It's
alive
actually a
is
miracle. Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. But he died trying to save his friend's dog. I've always thought that was a really sad story.
Really sad story. Yes.
But it is really a very good reminder to not bring your dogs to Yellowstone Park, and this is why.
No. And yes, bona fide, there are signs everywhere. We
Yes.
sometimes cut through Yellowstone to go up into Montana, and have our dogs with us, though have absolutely no intention, of course, of getting them out of the car. And they give you a big lecture. If they see your dogs in the car, they will give it to you, and they should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, this was in the early '80s, and it may not have been as well posted then. I mean, we've learned a lot over the years, I think, but at any
Oh,
rate,
there are signs everywhere. If you were to do something like that now, you would definitely be doing it knowing full well that
yeah,
you were literally taking your life into your hands.
yeah.
It was
Like
really
Paula
sad.
said, there's a reason the rangers don't bother with life jackets when they are in a boat cleaning out the trash people throw in the hot springs. They would die before they could drown. Yeah, for sure.
That's true. That is true.
Yes,
It's a
Ratliff,
weird
Terry
fact.
Ratliff was that attorney that got in trouble during Chad's trial. Yes.
Yep, same last name.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, very sad story. Well, I'm going to switch gears completely and tell you about a poacher
Ooh.
that got poached. All right, this feller right here.
Now this is an old story.
This is a very, very old story. This is a man named Dick Rock. Not Rock Dick, that's his porn name,
What?
but Dick Rock is his name.
Okay, sure.
And he was prowling around Anaconda, Montana around 1902. That's around the time he was in the Montana area in the late 1800s, early 1900s. In
Hmm.
fact, that picture particularly was taken in 1891 in Anaconda.
Wow.
He started homesteading here in 1871. At some point, though, Rock Dick or Dick Rock or whatever his name was, Richard
Hit this
Rock
guy in
was
the dick
his
with a rock, something like that.
actual name. He was known to poach buffalo, bison out of the park. And he had amassed quite the
Oh,
collection.
fuck that guy.
He'd amassed quite the
Poaching bison
collection
out of
of
the
bison.
park?
hmm There's a picture of him actually riding a bison bareback. At some point, one of his friends came to visit him. This was in 1902. And he was showing him how tame he had gotten this bison, how much he had tamed him and gotten him under control. And he climbed right in the stable with him to show his friend how this bison was tame. He was super cool. Well, Rock was standing there feeding the bison, and one of them went, "No, bitch, we don't think so." And he charged him, pinned him up against the corral, and the friend said he repeatedly pitched him in the air like a toy, gored his entire body every time he hit the ground. He ripped off
God.
every stitch of his clothing and left 29 horn holes in him.
Holy shit.
He actually managed to get up and climb out of the corral and look at his friend, and he said his eyes twitched a couple of times and he collapsed and he was gone.
Oh, wow. Just
Can you
internal
believe
damage.
that?
That is
Yeah.
wild. But then again, so are bison, and you should
Mhm.
not be stealing them out of
Mhm.
Yellowstone
Yeah.
or riding them and making them your pets.
Right? Like a horse
What an
rustler
ass.
or a cattle rustler, only he was stealing bison. Yeah. Isn't that something?
That is wild,
I don't know, Dick.
but
Probably not your
terrifying.
smartest move. Yeah.
No. Hey, Dick, you're a dick. Yeah.
So, whew, things you wish you'd never done, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems like karma if you're taking bison out of the park. That is not cool.
Right? I was thinking about like how is he doing it? Probably with horses, with cowboys and
Mm-hmm.
horses, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And
They were
roping them
running them.
probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and anacondas, I mean, that's a little ways away from the
Mm-hmm.
park. I guess it's probably not. As the crow flies, it's probably not that far. And
Probably
they
not.
probably, but still, yeah. Right? That is a story modern day visitors should hear. That's how much these animals can hurt you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is.
So leave them alone, please.
Yeah. And don't steal them for God's sake. Yeah, for sure.
No.
All right, what you got?
All right. I've got Zone of Death. So this has come up many
Yes.
times. People have asked us about the Zone of Death in Yellowstone, which is supposedly a place where if you were to commit murder, you could not stand trial.
Do,
So we're
do
going to
you
talk
mean
about that.
the train station?
Kinda, yeah. So if you'll see, this is a map of some of Yellowstone, and it's the red highlighted area over in the on the left hand side corner. It looks left hand to me anyway. That is the zone of death. So let me tell you about what the zone of death is, because this always comes up. People ask us about this all the time. So it is a 50 square mile area in Idaho and a section of Yellowstone National Park. It's sort of this edge between actually Idaho and Wyoming. And so basically, it's not really part of either state. It's kind of just a dead zone where no one really wants to own it. It's very, very remote. You can't really get to it. It's not really, that important, but someone figured out a loophole, because that sounds like an American to me. So if you were to be charged with a murder that was committed in that zone, the United States District Court for the District of Wyoming is the only district court that actually has jurisdiction over multiple parts of multiple states, and that's because of Yellowstone Park. And it extends slightly beyond Wyoming's borders into Idaho and Montana. So the federal government actually has jurisdiction over the park itself. So crimes that are committed in the park are actually prosecuted by federal law, not state law. So the problem is that if you are charged with a murder that occurs in the dead zone, you cannot be judged by a jury of your peers, because there are none in that area. There are no peers. There's no county that actually claims that. And so basically people are saying, well, you're supposed to have a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district where the crime shall have been committed. There is no such thing covering that area. Now, do I actually believe that if someone committed a murder in that area, which you would really have to know where to go to even get there, would actually not be charged? No, I think it would just end up in federal court. But people, there's a lot of mythology around it. But how do you have a jury trial of a jury of your peers? No people live in that area at all. And it's not really owned by, nobody wants to claim it, basically.
Yep.
So, kind of interesting. There's been some work to try to close the loophole on this. That they wanted to, there's a man that's worked to kind of try to close the loophole so no one can use it. Just so you know, no one has used it for a murder, but there was a man who was a poacher who poached an elk in that area. And so there could be problems there. But a federal judge actually ruled that he could be tried in the U.S. District Court for the District of Wyoming. And even though it supposedly was a problem with the Sixth Amendment, they still did that. So there was a lot of argument around it. He ended up taking a plea for the poaching and said that he would not appeal the zone of death issue. It's so funny that they're literally talking about this in court. So that's the only crime that we know that has actually been committed there. It's kind of alluded to in the show Yellowstone, the TV show Yellowstone. However, Yellowstone is in Montana, and this is a part of the park and the edge of the park that are in Wyoming and Idaho, not Montana. So they kind of are feigning the use of it, but it's not the actual right location. But it is believed that there was this came up when JJ and Tylee were missing.
Yeah.
And there were people worried that what if they were killed and buried in the zone of death?
Yeah.
And then no one could be tried for it. I don't think it's true. I really think they just end up in that Wyoming district court or they'd end up in a federal court. I don't
Hmm.
think the legal system would allow somebody to get away with murder, but it is like a very famous urban myth about Yellowstone and Wyoming and
Yeah.
Idaho.
For
So,
sure it is.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for the education on that, because that has been an ongoing conversation.
It has, yeah.
Well, I'm going to take a step clear back to 7 years before I was born, to
Ooh.
1970. And in 1970, there was a man fishing the Yellowstone River just outside of Gardner. So he was just on the very edge of Yellowstone Park. And he threw out his line, and something snagged his line that didn't seem to be a fish, but something was on it. This was on July 11th, 1970.
Mm.
And as he pulled it towards him, he realized that this was a human torso. Yeah,
Yikes.
it was missing head and arms, and it was terrifying. And he left it there. He went to into Gardner and called the sheriff. The sheriff got some park rangers involved. They all went back and helped to land this torso. And it was one of the most shocking things that any of them had ever seen in Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
And the body itself was transferred to Livingston for an autopsy, where it was determined that the body had been stabbed 27 times, as well as partially dismembered. Uh, they really had nothing to go on because there were no fingers for fingerprints. There was no head. There, they had no idea who this was. They knew it was a young Caucasian male, and they put a big bulletin out to surrounding states that this, you know, corpse had been found in the river in case there was a missing persons report filed. And just a few days later, indeed, there was a missing persons report filed for a 22-year-old man from Great Falls, Montana. And after his name was James Schlosser. And after they got a little more information about James Schlosser, they determined that this was indeed James Schlosser. And
Mm.
James' family said, yeah, he was headed to Yellowstone to camp and fish for the weekend, which was normal for him. He was a social worker. He worked for the family for the state in family services in some capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and was a beloved son and friend and worker, and people adored him. And he was an avid fisherman, as a lot of people in Montana are. And so he had headed out to fish for the weekend and then never came home. And of course, coworkers called looking for him. His contacted his family. They hadn't heard from him either. Some pieces got put together. So now they knew it was James, but they didn't know why it was James or what he was doing there. This is James.
Mm.
So, in talking to the family, they discovered that James drove a pretty distinct car, a pretty distinct sports car, in fact. And so they put an APB out on the sports car and sent that all over the country, actually, hoping to figure out where in the world that car might be, because they thought it might give them some kind of a clue. The car was an Opel Kadett sports car. Well, unbelievably, just a few hours after that APB went out, there was a car accident in Northern California with two
Mm.
men who, remember, this was 1970, were called long hairs and hippies. They had crashed
Oh.
with a businessman in a pickup in the Opel Kadett, and he had wanted their insurance, their ID, their something. They didn't have anything like that on them. So he said, well, let's just get in my truck. It was drivable. So he's, let's just get in my truck and run to town, and we'll get to a gas station, we can call the sheriff. So they could do a police report and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
he actually got these men in his car with him and he drove them into a gas station. And when he got out and went inside to borrow the phone, these two ran. So then he was like, okay, well, God damn it, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So he called the police, and the sheriff came and talked to him and went, well, this is a pretty rural county in Northern California. You didn't make it very far. So he sent some deputies out, and pretty soon they find these two men walking down the side of the road. So they stop to talk to them and ask them, what their names are, what are they doing, where have they been. And
Oh.
one of them pipes up and says, he actually needs some help. He tells him he needs some help because he says he has a cannibalism problem and produces from his pocket some human fingers.
Oh, gross. What? Holy
And the other
shit.
guy has some human fingers in his pocket too.
Oh, yikes.
And they put two and two together, and indeed, these are their guys. So Stanley Dean Baker was the main man. He was the person who did the killing. His accomplice was a guy named Stroop. His last name was Stroop, Harry Allen Stroop. So we have Harry Stroop and we have Stanley Dean Baker. So they arrest them both and they extradite them back to Montana, where, of course, they both stand charges for murder. So, as the story goes, sometime in the night, well, let's back up. As the story goes, our hero, our victim, picked these idiots up while they were hitchhiking outside of the park. And
Mm.
Stroop says that his friend had invited him to join him for a weekend. As it turns out, they were from Wyoming. And Baker had told Stroop that he wanted to go to Wyoming or go to Montana for the weekend to go to Yellowstone and invited him to go. So they had hitchhiked to Yellowstone. And so they were hitchhiking when, of course, James picked them up. And he was camping and fishing. And so they drove a certain ways and then they stopped and he made camp and they made camp too with him. I'm sure at that point he was like, okay, what's going on? But all right.
Well, yeah, you're hitchhiking to Yellowstone? What?
Yeah.
How?
How?
That's
Why?
insane.
Yeah. And we have James, who was just actually a really super, super good guy, and he saw these guys and they clearly needed help. Well, at some time in the night, Baker crawled out of his sleeping bag and over to James and shot him in the head with a
Oh,
22 and then
God.
dismembered his body. One thing that was really disturbing when the body was found, when the torso was found, was the gaping hole in his chest.
Oh, no.
hmm Because Baker, as he told the sheriff's office, he removed his heart and ate it raw and whole.
What?
hmm
Whole?
Well, raw, like an apple. Ate
Oh,
it.
like an apple. Oh, my God.
hmm And said that he kept his fingers because he would need something to chew on later. The hell?
What?
hmm
What?
So the entire area is just absolutely shell shocked that this has happened, obviously. And the trial that commences, it was like the early true crimers. There was a whole group of old ladies that came every day to trial. And at lunch, they would lay
Oh,
out a picnic on the lawn and sit together and eat and chat. And then they would come back out and sit all together in the trial. And I went, those were our
interesting.
girls. Yep.
Yes.
They were witnessing. They didn't know any of the victim. They didn't know the victim. They didn't know the perps. Nobody. They were just witnessing. And that
Yeah.
part of the story kind of cracks me up. I'm like, nope, I get it. I get that
Yeah,
entirely.
I do too.
So eventually, they are both convicted, but not before Stanley Dean Baker manages to spread a crazy amount of satanic panic because
Oh.
he had a satanic Bible in his pocket, as well as a recipe for making LSD.
Oh.
So he starts
The picture
taking
is becoming clearer.
yeah, he starts taking credit for all of these crimes he didn't commit. He starts saying that he was in a satanic cult in Wyoming where they were drinking human blood and all of this
Oh.
stuff. And people are losing their minds that there's some satanic cult out there that's murdering people and that they're cannibals. And, because he is, and he's saying all this
Mm-hmm.
crazy shit. And then a few years later in prison, he finally admits that none of that was true and that he just was on LSD and what his brain was quite affected. He also said that he had electroshock therapy to his brain at 17. And from that time
Oh.
on, he believed that he was Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah,
He probably believed he was Jesus before the electric shock. It's
he
probably
probably
why they
did.
did it.
That's
Not that that
pretty common.
helps hallucinations at all, but
Mhm.
wow.
Yep.
That is yikes.
Mhm. When he showed up the human fingers, he said, "These ain't chicken bones, they're human fingers. I have a problem. I'm a cannibal."
Oh my god, can you
Holy
imagine
shit.
the police like
Mhm.
what?
Mhm. Yeah. So, obviously, they both went to prison. He was paroled in 1985.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Schlosinger, or
Whoa.
no, Stroop, only went to prison for 2 years as an accessory. They had claimed that he actually wasn't there at the time, that he was behind them. He hadn't caught up with him yet. He wasn't really with that group. And the jury was like, "Bull to the shit. No, you were absolutely there. There's no way he did this all by himself." And so he was convicted. But again, only served 2 years before he was cut loose.
Holy crap.
His head and appendages were never recovered.
Oh. But consider where they were at. I mean,
Hmm. Yep. One of
that
the
takes
things
a
they had
lot.
learned in their investigation was that Alan had actually been seen in the park with two men because they were turned away from a couple of campgrounds that were full. And so some park rangers had actually had seen them on July 10th.
Wow.
So, as they're piecing this all together, they know that he entered the park alive and that he was dragging these two fools around trying to find a place for himself to camp, and they just kind of happened to be with him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That is
But he only
extremely
served
horrible.
15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is way scary. Is he still
Hmm.
living?
Uh, I don't think so. I know that the other guy is dead. Shoop is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, apparently, in the trial, he put on a hell of a show. This really would have been
Mm.
something to see. Uh, in the trial, he claimed to be Jesus. He took responsibility uh, for what he did, but he also took responsibility for the death of Jimi Hendrix by mind control. He said all
Oh,
kinds of crazy shit.
yes. Okay.
He said he'd also considered killing Stroop several times, but decided against it because true friends are hard to find.
Oh my god.
Hmm. He also,
Oh, that's so bad.
yeah, he also claimed that he murdered someone named Robert Salem.
Hmm.
But when he testified against that under oath, he said, "I respectfully refuse to answer on the grounds that it might incriminate me."
What?
Yeah, this was a man who lived in San Francisco and had been stabbed and mutilated in San Francisco in April of 1970. Uh,
Wow.
he, the press was calling him a Zodiac killer copycat for a while, and he was getting off on that. So he started to take credit for crimes he didn't commit because
Sure.
he was liking that. And apparently, he was in the Bay Area at the time. Uh, The judge who was in charge of this murder trial said that Baker was a very proud, intelligent individual who could make a good impression if you didn't know his background.
Oh, so he
However,
got away with a lot.
but when he was on the witness stand at one point, he was mad at the judge and told him to go fuck himself.
Oh.
And this was actually after he was convicted. This was on a ongoing matter, and the judge was
Mm-hmm.
like reprimanded him, and he said, "What are you going to do? I'm already sentenced to life in prison." And so he increased his sentence from life plus 10 days for his outburst.
And he didn't
But
serve
life
that long, did he?
ended up being 15 years because in
Wow.
1970, lifers could apply for parole in 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Now it would be 30 years before he could apply.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually fully
Mm.
16 years. His family was absolutely, the victim's family was absolutely horrified and devastated that he was released.
Wow, yeah.
But he got out, he moved to Minnesota, and he got a job. And nobody knew that he was up to this stuff. He was selling cars and was doing super well. And people loved him. And he was like the employee of the year and kicking ass right and left. And then a show that was on clear back in the late 80s, early 90s called A Current Affair, which was a true crime kind of
Oh,
show,
yes.
ran this story and ran his story. And when the people who he worked for saw it, they were absolutely horrified and they fired him.
Whoa.
And so, to answer your question, he has died. He died of liver cancer in 1994.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yep. Apparently,
That's a wild story.
yeah,
Wow.
he was known as Stanley Fingers Baker in prison.
Oh, ew.
You know,
Gross.
due to the fingers. Yep.
Oh, I see. Put
Isn't
that
that
down
a
so I
hell
can
of a story?
see that headline. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll back up to that since you pulled that
Can
down.
you imagine walking up to the police like, hey, yeah, I got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stop eating people. Can you guys help? I mean,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah.
That had to be stunning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, even 50 years later, all of our love to the Schlosser family, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't even imagine.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
sad.
Because I'm sure this is a story that does, continues to reverberate around their family to this day.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, his parents owned a grocery store in Great Falls, and the kids all worked there.
Oh.
And they were just a
Mm-hmm.
beloved family in the community. Everyone knew them.
Mm-hmm.
And when this happened, it just rocked everybody's worlds, including the Yellowstone community as well. Uh, just goes to show you just don't know
These
sometimes.
guys want to know if you know where in Minnesota he was.
Yes, I do. Let's see. Let me get back. I have several articles
While
open
you're
here.
finding it, Teresa says, so can Lori Vallow apply for parole in 30 years? No. She has life without the possibility of parole
Yeah.
times three.
Uh, Bemidji, Bemidji.
Bemidji,
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota.
Near St. Paul, it sounds like. That might be right. The there was a story that ran in 2009 in the St. Paul Pioneer Press uh,
Oh.
about him. Oh, sorry, he was a top salesman at a sporting goods store, not a car salesman. Sorry about that. Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
if that helps. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
That is crazy.
Oh, good pronunciation. Okay, good.
Oh,
I
good.
got it. Yep. Oh, Pamela says she remembers that, but didn't know he thought he was Jesus.
Mm.
Yeah, why is everyone Jesus? That is really common, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah. Religious delusions and hallucinations are very common in people with schizophrenia and psychotic disorders.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm guessing you're right that he probably did have some serious mental health stuff going on and then add LSD to it. And
Oh, yeah. Which would have just made him extremely psychotic.
And extremely dangerous.
Psychedelics
Yep.
like that, for somebody who is already experiencing psychosis, it's
hmm
catastrophic,
Yep.
as you can see.
Yeah. Well, and some LSD, homemade LSD he was making. I guess is LSD homemade. I don't know very much about LSD, but anyway.
Yeah,
So
wow.
so there you have it. That's Yellowstone murder and mayhem for you. Whew.
Yes, it is. I think, Pamela, it's because of the story of the resurrection of Jesus and that Jesus will return that often brings people. But there are plenty of people who do hallucinate themselves as other gods. They can be Roman or Greek gods. I mean, it all happens. But in the United States,
hmm
it's much more common for it to be Jesus.
Interesting. I wonder if people believe that they're Allah or Muhammad or Buddha
Yeah,
in
it
other
does happen.
places. More likely, yeah. Interesting. That would be an interesting study actually to see what comes up in other countries around that.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Ooh, that reminds me. I have a Patreon coming out here very shortly. I know we keep saying that, but we really do. I have
Uh-huh.
a Patreon coming out that is a study of serial killers who are currently alive and out in the public in the United States.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, because terrifyingly, they don't all stay in jail forever.
Oh God. Well, apparently if they, were convicted in Montana in the 70s, that would probably be the case too.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Holy moly. Well, I also have a Patreon that's almost done. I've been cracking at it a little bit here and there, and I'm hoping to have it done tonight or in the morning. And mine is about sovereign citizens, and it's actually a compilation of videos of sovereign citizens getting arrested and sovereign citizens in court because that's some of the most bonkers shit you have ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, yes, it is.
Wow. Well, by the end of this month, there will be 4 new Patreons up as promised. So these two
There
should
will.
come out in the next day or two, and then by the end of this weekend, we'll have 2 more out. So
Yes, we
lots more to
will.
come. Awesome. All righty. Well, did we do it?
I think we did it.
Well, okay then. Well, we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mountain Time for a brand new episode. We'll be back at
Hmm.
7 p.m. Mountain on Wednesday night. That will be the last time that show is at 7. And then the
Yep.
following week, we're going to be picking it back up at 6. We're just trying
Yes.
to make our schedule more cohesive for everybody and go a little bit earlier for our East Coasters and across the
Hmm.
ponders. So hopefully that makes things easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, but this week it will still be at 7. This will be the last one. And then it'll be at 6 after that. And then we'll be back Thursday at 3. So still lots and lots more to come this week. So thanks
So
for being
much.
here. You guys, you can learn more about us over at truecrimesquad.com. You can find both of our stores. I have an Etsy, Kristi has an Instagram store. And also, you can tip us over there. Not required, but always appreciated. And we just appreciate you being here. So please be sure to like,
Hmm.
share, follow, things like that help us a lot with the algorithm, help us to show up more for more people, which we really appreciate.
Yes.
And the beat keeps marching on. So we'll be back.
We sure will.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.